little time explaining for everybody joining us today what this task force is, who's helping to lead it, and why we exist. And that's going to be important throughout the day as we really focus in on this region in Southern California. So Governor Newsom organized this task force, the Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force, to guide our efforts across the state to do a couple of important things: protect people and communities from wildfire, and protect and restore our landscapes. And this task force is focused on proactive upfront actions that we can take to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire. Now, Joe Tyler to my right leads CAL FIRE, and along with the U.S. Forest Service, we have thousands of men and women who are battling wildfires every summer, really all year at this point. And there's incredible response capacity that's getting better each year. But we know we need to do a lot more to protect our communities and restore and protect our landscapes, and that's what this task force is all about. What does success look like? Safe and healthy landscapes, fire-prepared communities, avoiding wildfire that's catastrophic in nature, and instead learning to live with wildfire as part of our natural environmental cycle. So how do we do this? The task force is focused and very outcome-oriented on implementing a comprehensive action plan that was developed by the organizations that are part of the leadership of the task force and with input from folks around the state. And it's this action plan that the task force month in and month out is focused on. Part of that is building the capacity of regions to lead. Figuring out this challenge of catastrophic wildfire is not a one-size-fits-all solution, and the answers are not necessarily found in Sacramento or Washington, D.C., but rather in the region. And part of why we're meeting here today and hold this task force throughout the state is to better understand how we can actually support you all to meet our shared goals, because that's fundamentally what it's all about. We also, as a task force, have all sorts of working groups to break through barriers that prevent us from doing work that we need to get done, and to identify new ways to do this, whether that's technology or reducing permitting requirements or understanding how to get more cultural and prescribed fire on the landscape where appropriate. And we're focused on maintaining this task force to adapt as our needs evolve. We collectively, with you, are making great progress. Governor Newsom and the legislature allocated almost $3 billion in the last couple of years alone on the projects, the efforts that we'll talk about today. That's about a 15x increase in funding at the state level. Huge thanks to the Forest Service and the Biden-Harris administration. We have more funding coming into the region from federal sources than we ever have before. And this is translating into hundreds, actually thousands of projects across the state, some of which we'll hear about in the region today. More good work is happening in areas that really need to happen, like, again, prescribed fire than has happened before. And these projects are paying off in the recent fire season. Chief Tyler has helped us understand that wildfires that occurred last summer were actually shaped and controlled by some of this vegetation management work that's happening. Communities are better prepared when the fires do come, so we're making great progress. But we're also clear-eyed that there remains a lot of work to get done. And we want to create the space here today to talk about what's working, but also what needs to improve, and frankly, how we can help improve. We are here in Southern California in part because your elected leadership came to Sacramento, said that the state's wildfire efforts haven't focused enough attention on Southern California. Wildfire threats are different here. Your landscapes are different. Your needs are different, and the work that's happening is different. And so part of this meeting, or the genesis of this meeting, was Senator Henry Stern and other folks who represent this region really saying, you need to come to Southern California to actually understand what's happening on the ground. And so that's one of the reasons that we're here. Three key parts of our day today after you hear from the folks up here on the dais with me. First, we got a great panel with scientists and people that will help us understand, how is Southern California different? What are the different challenges and opportunities within this large region? And what are the resources that local leaders can use to get work done? Then we're going to hear from regional leaders directly on what's happening, what's working, what's not working. And then we're going to finish the day talking about all of the investment that's coming in and how we're working to help you organize that into a cohesive regional investment plan. The idea is sustained funding over time that allow communities to plan and implement projects consistently, because we know this is not a one and done and a mission accomplished after a few years. We are shifting the paradigm to much more management and consistent action over time. At the end of the day, we have an opportunity to break into small groups, and you'll hear more about that, to go deeper on topics of interest, and then we'll spend some time together in a reception. Importantly, there are a set of really well-organized tours happening tomorrow. So please, if you haven't had an opportunity to sign up for a tour, do so, and you can do that at our lunch. With that said, let me turn it to Jen Eberlein, who, again, leads our Forest Service in the region and has been an incredible partner on this task force.
Wow. Thanks so much. Appreciate that, Secretary Crowfoot. Good morning, everybody. It is so great to see everybody in the audience, and for those of you online as well. I look forward to connecting with old friends, already have some this morning, and then meeting all the new people here today, and hopefully get some interaction with everybody that's online as well. I also want to say thank you so much to the Meeting Planning Committee and to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy for hosting us here at this amazing location. When I was driving in this morning, I went, wow, what a hidden gem. And then I thought, can you have anything hidden in Southern California? And many of you said absolutely. I look forward to learning about some of the other hidden gems that you have down in this neck of the woods of the state as well. So again, Secretary Crowfoot and I, along with the whole executive committee here, really look forward and are eager to learn more about what those needs are that you had said, Wade. How can we all work together collaboratively? Because again, collaboration is all what we need to do. None of us can do this alone. So how we're able to come together, learn from each other, hear what our needs are, where are those opportunities, all the efforts, the coordinating information, actions, resources to manage California's forests. That's what we're all about, and we're here to really see what we can do to make a difference. As the third regional forum we've had, look forward to the updates on the progress, as Secretary Crowfoot had said. Again, I just want to, as we're all moving forward to really getting those healthy forests and reducing the risk that we have, just the storms that we have also highlights that we've had some incredible impacts across our state. And for me, that really highlights the importance that just how do we accelerate some of our projects? How do we get to that pace and scale to really look at resilient landscapes in all formats, certainly on wildfire risk, but any of our other kinds of impacts and damages such as the storms have done for us too. Just how do we have that ecosystem and community resilience? I want to touch a little, certainly on the Forest Service's wildfire crisis strategy that we announced last year. We're in year 2 now and just had an announcement of some additional funding that we had from Undersecretary Homer Wilkes and from our Chief of the Forest Service, Randy Moore, just this past 2 weeks ago or a week ago, saying that we have another $490 million that we are bringing to, as part of the federal family, into the work that we're doing in this state as well as across other states in the country. So just wanted to be able to pinpoint that we have 5 new landscapes that have been announced here in California. Trinity Forest Health and Fire Resilience Rural Communities in Trinity County up north at 910,000 acres. Klamath River Basin across Oregon and California is 10 million acres. Plumas Community Forest Protection is 285,000 acres. Sierra and Elko Fronts out of Nevada and California are 3.5 million acres. And then Southern California Fireshed Risk Reduction Strategy is 4 million acres. And all of those have some associated funding that we're able to come together with our task force, with our partners, and really be able to leverage and make even greater impacts. And I'm telling you the numbers of acres on that because that is the level of scale that we need to get to. How do we do this together collectively at that scale and increasing and accelerating our pace to really make the changes on the ground that we need to have? I also want to make sure everybody knows that Secretary Vilsack, Secretary of Agriculture, has also approved emergency authority uses for some of our environmental compliance to even greater accelerate. It's things that we're going to ensure that we have endangered species management. We're going to look at protecting those cultural resources, but how do we even streamline faster on some of our environmental compliance while being transparent and responsible about what happens on the ground? So I'm really looking forward to looking at some of those emergency authorities, working with partners to do that. So again, in all this work, it's collaborative, it's transparent. We want to all know and understand what are the effects on the grounds that we have. So again, I'm just looking forward to really thinking about the uniqueness and hearing about Southern California. You have a different, as Secretary Crowfoot said, you have forests, you have shrublands, you have different coasts, you've got communities, as well as what's different here, but also what is common and what can we collectively understand and work together as a state to move forward on. So some of the things that I know with the North Coast and even the Sierra Cascadeña regions have asked, and I know that these are here as well, is how can we align our visions to have resilient communities and forests? How can we accomplish our goals through shared stewardship? How do we have success stories and share them and have on-the-ground learning together? How do we understand the impacts of droughts, wildfire, insects, and disease, and having on forests and people in this community as well as across the state? So our biggest thing is how do we identify barriers and how can we move forward collectively on them together? So I'm really looking forward to exploring those ways with all of you today. I know our executive committee is here to listen and learn and be a partner with you on how do we break those barriers down and make the connections and the actions on the land that we need. So looking forward to today's discussions, more importantly, ready to learn from all of you. So with that, thank you for being with us today. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Jen. You know, we talk a lot about scale because we have to move further and faster and do far more than we have in the past to proactively prepare and adjust to this new reality. In order to do that, we need more coordination, but better yet, integration among different governments and different types of groups. So we've structured an executive committee that's driving forward the work of the task force to do just that. You obviously have the federal government and the state government working together, and we also have some other important perspectives. So I want to just go down the row here for the executive committee and just ask you to introduce yourself, where you come from, and just a few sentences on the perspective that your organization brings to the work.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Tyler. I'm the Director and Fire Chief at CAL FIRE. It is great to be here in Calabasas today in the King Gillette Ranch to focus on the solutions and actions together, how we come together and collaborate to find results. There are real results that are occurring on the landscape to reduce risk and mitigate hazards within our communities. And for CAL FIRE being part of the global effort for a more resilient California is really trying to be a partner in achieving our million-acre strategy by 2025. CAL FIRE in the last 3 years with its awardees have continually met and exceeded the 100,000 acres of fuels reduction efforts there alone, but it does not stop there. We continue along to meet that million-acre strategy together. It is important that as we hear about nearly $2.8 billion in state funding that has come together, that we recognize that CAL FIRE is really a large contributor in trying to push out grant and financial assistance awards to allow our local, state, federal, tribal, private partners to achieve results as well. So in a selfish act, I'm going to take an opportunity and just mention that through February, we have nearly $100 million in grant opportunities for schoolyard greening and nearly $19 million available in tribal partnerships to continue that great work in fire prevention and fuels reduction efforts. Here in just the last couple years alone, over $500 million in forest and wildfire resilience projects that have occurred across the state, over 90 million in workforce development and training opportunities, 10 million for restoration, and an additional 4 million working in public-private partnerships to expand our nursery capacity by nearly 25 million seedlings available across the state. And then more than $20 million that come for assistance to private landowners to be able to assist in this collaborative effort of wildfire resilience across the state. These efforts, again, are not alone. It is together. It is partnerships to be able to change the landscape in California. And it will take all of us to make California more resilient. So we look forward to hearing your issues, your concerns, bringing it back to the committee to get real action on the ground. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Richard.
Great, thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Richard Barheit. I'm the director of the Pacific Southwest Research Station, and we have sites all across the state and also in Hawaii, and we're focused on working with partners to deliver science-based solutions to the forest management challenges that we have. And over the course of this meeting, we'll be talking, I know, more about some of the regional resource kits that have been developed. And we are really looking at ways that we can bring large data sets and decision support capabilities to support these land management challenges. And we look forward to continuing to work with all of you, with the partners, as we try to better understand the specific needs here in Southern California and all of the other areas that we have been working on across the state to really be able to deliver solutions that are going to address the challenges that we're facing in these specific communities. Through these science-based solutions, we are looking to, again, working with partners to help inform the types of projects that are going to be taken to enhance resilience in these landscapes, and through doing that, considering resilience across a number of different aspects, from reducing risk to fire, also helping to protect watersheds and other ecosystem services, preserving social considerations as well, and we look to do all of these things as part of the collaborative efforts that we're working on together. So very appreciate being here today. Looking forward again to hearing about the work that's going on in Southern California and how we can be better of assistance to all of you. So thanks so much.
Richard, thanks so much. And the Pacific Southwest Research Station is part of the U.S. Forest Service and really an anchor to this science partnership that we have that you'll hear more about today. So thanks so much. Don.
Good morning, Don Hankins, and I'm with the Indigenous Stewardship Network as one of the co-leads. We are an organization, an intertribal organization based here in California, working to promote Indigenous stewardship in the broadest sense, from marine stewardship to forest and fire aspects, and forest and fire is one of the bigger things that we're working on currently. First, I want to acknowledge and thank Elder Salazar for his blessing this morning. It's really important on a cultural perspective to begin with that kind of grounding and to be mindful of that kind of work. Within the Indigenous Stewardship Network and how we work, we are focused on education within our tribal communities to support that through the regranting of funds from partners, including the Regional Fire Forest Capacity Grant Program and other private foundations and so forth that are supporting that work. Some of those projects we'll hear about today. I know that our stewardship network has worked to support the Tataviam Band in some of their work to do ethnographic work around fire so that they can start to rebuild that knowledge. And I'm really happy to see that. You know, the relationship with fire, as Wade and Jen mentioned in their introductory remarks, is different here in California. But the one thing that's common across all of California is that it's all been stewarded with fire by Indigenous peoples. And that relationship with fire in the landscape is broken, and we need to resolve that. And I appreciate that the state is and their federal partners are working to fund that, to find ways of bringing these partnerships together. And so, you know, thinking about some of the other tribal groups in this area that the Stewardship Network has been working with, include the Pala Band, the La Jolla Band, and then another intertribal effort with the Climate Science Alliance Tribal Working Group, and I think we'll hear from some of those folks today. So there's work that's happening. People are trying to reconnect, to regain access, to engage in stewardship that's been lacking because of a lot of the history of what's happened in this region. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can learn today from our tribal partners, but also to plant the seed for those of you who have the opportunities as land stewards, as land managers, as decision makers, to find ways to support tribal people in that work. Thank you.
Don, thank you so much. So federal state, tribal, and local governments. So important. With that said, Doug.
Thank you, Secretary. My name is Doug Teeter. I'm with Rural County Representatives of California, which is 40 counties send a supervisor, and we sit in a lot of meetings, and we try to lobby the state and the feds for policies that will benefit local citizens. And as you may know, the rubber hits the road at the county level, and we do a lot of land use in the decisions in the WUI, and that's going to be a big decision going forward is how do we develop in our urban and wildlife areas. So we provide the sheriff, the safety, the evacuation. So there's a lot in play at the county level, and that's why I like it. And it's my pleasure to be here. And kind of a personal thing, a lot of us get into local county government because, we got mad at something at one of the higher governments. And I just want to say, I'm a survivor of the Camp Fire. So I sense a lot of the frustration of folks that either have the fear of a wildfire in their community or actually have experience such as I have. Made it a quarter mile from my house before I had to shelter in place as the fire went over with quite a few other people that I never knew in my life. And it was honestly the scariest thing that I've ever went through. And I'm appreciative of the task force, the state and the Fed getting together to try to make change. Because I don't want anyone else to go through what I did, even though we know it's probably not possible, but hopefully we can do some change. Separately, you might go, where's Doug from? Butte County, if I didn't say. But I was born in Inglewood, grew up in Hawthorne, moved up north to live my life, but I went to school in San Diego State. So I'm not an expert down here, but I do have an appreciation for Southern California because it's a part of my life. And I thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Doug, and sharing the personal story. And we have to remember that's why we do this work. Our agency, the agency that I lead, Natural Resources Agency, is only one among many key leaders in state government. And so represented in this leadership of the task force, we have a couple of key sort of sister entities. First, the California Environmental Protection Agency, and Katie Landau.
Thank you. Good morning. As Wade said, my name is Katie Landau. I'm a special advisor to the Deputy Secretary for Water Policy at Cali, PA, and I'm attending here today on behalf of Secretary Yana Garcia. So for those of you who may not know, Cali, PA coordinates state environmental programs and oversees 6 boards, departments, and offices. 3 of those really focused and have a major role in the wildfire and forestry and recovery work. So the first of those that I want to highlight is the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, which is charged with protecting the public from the harmful effects of air pollution and developing programs and actions to fight climate change. CARB is also the lead agency for climate change programs, and it oversees all the air pollution control efforts in California to attain and maintain health-based air quality standards. We also have the State Water Resources Control Board and its 9 regional water boards, which are charged with managing California's water and water rights throughout the state. Beyond the permitting forestry activities, vegetation management projects, and other actions to ensure water quality protections, the board also supports emergency response and recovery activities, such as working with drinking water systems to ensure safe and clean drinking water and providing emergency water supplies. They support, participate, and lead water quality monitoring programs to assess post-fire impacts on regional water resources, and they support the long-term recovery and restoration efforts following major disasters. Lastly, CalRecycle administers and provides oversight for all of California's state-managed non-hazardous waste handling and recycling programs, but they have a very large and significant role in the wildfire response, including managing the debris removal in the aftermath of fire, which has been mission tasked by the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and that's really taken a significant time in the last few years as we've seen these major fires, and it's really focused on getting people back to their houses in their property as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. The partnerships on work around these issues like increasing forest management as a nature-based climate and protecting communities from smoke are helping CARB advance its climate and air quality goals. In December, CARB approved its 2022 climate change scoping plan. The scoping plan is the first and only climate change fighting strategy by any government in the world to fully incorporate forests, shrublands, grasslands, and wildfires. It identified that there's a need for a substantial increase in forest, shrubland, and grassland management required to occur soon to ameliorate the destructive capacity and air quality damage associated with future wildfires. And in Southern California's chaparral and other fragile ecosystems, the scoping plan really focused on creating fire suppression access where needed and otherwise restoring and conserving these lands. Also incorporated in the scoping plan is protecting communities from wildfire by ensuring 100% defensible space in the wildland-urban interface. So the work is now being undertaken by CARB and many of the other agencies, both with CaliPA and with CNRA, to focus on making that plan a reality. And a lot of this partnership that keeps coming up in all these introduction, it's the workaround, part of that includes work around streamlining and synchronizing the permits to help support and increase the pace and the scale of vegetation management projects. So, one of those types of work that actually came out of this workforce was in 2021, the water boards adopted a California Vegetation Treatment Program, or CalVTP general permit. And that permit's available now at no cost to permittees. It also has an automatic enrollment, meaning that we can more quickly and more cheaply permit the activities for a lot of these restoration work that's going to need to be done to both reduce water quality impacts, but also to ensure that we're all in a safe and clean environment and recovering from these major wildfire disasters. And a big piece of that is working with local agencies and local groups on the restoration activities that are unique to the environment we are working on. And I'm so looking forward to hearing more about that, what those types of projects are going to be in this area and the rest of Southern California.
Katie, thanks so much. And a couple things. So think CaliPA, water quality, air quality as relates to wildfire, including smoke from wildfire, prescribed burns, debris removal, and then really trying to figure out what's the role of landscapes in the state's climate change strategy. We know that if these huge catastrophic fires continue, we're putting more and more pollution into the atmosphere that's not only impacting public health, but obviously impacting our climate goals. So thanks for your leadership. I might just note too, we talk about permit streamlining and we're proud of our progress, but we continue to have a ways to go. And I was out in the resource tent talking to some new colleagues from the Inland Empire that were saying, some of the things that we put in place still are pretty challenging. So we want to unpack that. Saharnaz, not last but not least, Saharnaz Mirzazadeh helps to lead the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and that is a key entity helping us figure out this intersection between all the work that we do, land use and community planning. So interested in your perspective.
Sure. Thank you so much, Secretary Crawford, for the opportunity to provide some remarks here. As he mentioned, I am representing Governor's Office of Planning and Research here on behalf of Sam Estefa, the director. He apologized for not being able to join you here today. At the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, we recognize that wildfire events are becoming more frequent and more intense, and the impact of those events are not felt evenly across the states, and our under-resourced communities have experienced the burden more than others, including our tribal governments. So at the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, we try to provide resources to help the under-resourced communities to understand how they can battle the fire better and how they can better prepare for it. We have a lot of statutory requirements that in the office we are trying to support the local governments with. Probably the most important thing that we do in the office is our general plan guidelines. This is a systematic way into looking how our land use practices can support the local governments in being more resilient. There are different elements in the general plan guidelines. Some of you may be familiar with the safety element. There are other elements to it, including transportation and housing, and all of them are intertwined, and they can support building resilient communities in general. The other thing that we do is through our integrated climate adaptation and planning program, which also we run a technical advisory council under that, and we try to coordinate our work across the state on programs and policy to make sure that everything that we do is complement to each other and we are coordinated in the state level. The final thing is our programs. We have many programs under the Governor's Office of Planning and Research that we give grants to local governments to help them to build more resilient future, which include wildfire planning as well. I would love to talk to you about how our office can better support you in your efforts in future. I'm here to learn and listen and help you in any way that we can. See us as a resource, and I'm really looking forward to engaging with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saharnaz. So as Jennifer